It's another edition of Behind the Book, brought to you by the Play MGM app, live from the MGM Grand Sportsbook, high atop the MGM Grand Sportsbook, I should say. Skill Alexander from the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Jay Rude, Vice President, Race and Sports, MGM Resorts International. Jay, we're going to talk about pro football and college football. Huge weekend in both coming up. But I'd be remiss if I did not mention another big deal for MGM. First, it was the official gaming partner deal with the NBA. Then it was with the NHL. And just yesterday, MGM becomes the official gaming partner of Major League Baseball.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, a lot of really good deals. It's better to be partners with these guys than adversaries like we've been over the years. There's a lot of marketing deals that are going with this. We're going to have share information back and forth between our databases and be able to bring a better guest experience to our guests and to the people that are engaged in the MLB environment as well. So, it's kind of a win-win for everybody. And I would rather be making these deals, marketing deals and these kind of deals rather than focusing on all that nonsense of integrity fees and everything that we had early in going on.
Absolutely.
And this is kind of the way it should look. This is what you see over in Europe. Sponsorships of the big soccer teams and engagement with the gaming companies with them, and you have a relationship with them. It's better this way than I think fighting tooth and nail over something that you're eventually going to probably get to this spot anyway.
And a little data exclusivity this time as well when it pertains to MGM and MLB.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to probably see some new, innovative kind of in-play and pre-match offerings that we'll be able to, give to our customers. I don't know, maybe bat speed and how quickly the ball is coming off, and a true measurement of distance of home runs or hits or something like that. We're coming into an era that's just uncharted territory. Uncharted
territory. MGM at the forefront of legalization. Once again, big deal with MLB. We'll talk football, pro and college. It's Behind the Book from MGM Grand, brought to you by the Play MGM app. Back on Behind the Book, Gil Alexander from VSiN, Jay Rude from MGM Resorts International, the Vice President of Race and Sports, of course, the man who brings the smarts and the pretty and the funny to each and every one of these episodes.
I'm glad you recognize that.
I hope you'll come through today, Jay.
Yes.
So a huge weekend in college football. Huge in the sense that there are so many implications playoff-wise. Oh, yeah. Not exactly the best of matchups across the board, but this one that we're starting with, this qualifies as a great one. Big 12 championship. First thing in the morning Pacific time, 9 a.m., 12 noon Eastern. It's from the Jerry Dome, if you will, AT&T Stadium in Dallas. The Big 12 championship, Texas, Oklahoma. Oklahoma favored by 8. Yeah. A rematch of the only game that Oklahoma lost this year, 48-45 to Texas. Now the Sooners 8-point favorites. Gots to win to get it in, or at least to have a chance to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of pressure on this game for them. I think the public is going to be looking at this game from a revenge factor. I think we're going to see a ton of play on Oklahoma in this game from the public as we get closer to game time. I think this game is a game where the sharp community might sit on their heels a little bit, let the bookmakers panic from the amount of one-sided action that's going to be coming here, and maybe hope to catch another half here or something like that as this maybe creeps up. Yeah. I could see this creeping up before game time, and then the sharp community kind of come in and take the best of it towards the end. So I'm going to be reluctant to move quickly on this game. With the history that the two have, I think 8's a tough number to cover in a rivalry like
sure
this
is.
that we have. So
yeah.
I'm gonna be okay needing Texas against the public. I just don't want to give away my position and sublet the sportsbook to the Sharps.
Understood. This might be, we always sort of joke about parlays on this show, you sort of trying to coax people into making them, me going the opposite way, but there might be a correlated parlay opportunity here. If a bettor believes, let's say a bettor comes into this day believing that Oklahoma is going to win this handily, that would then incentivize Ohio State later in the day, if that in fact happens, to want to crush Northwestern in the Big Ten Championship. So there is a bit of a correlated parlay if you believe in Oklahoma big to also tie that in with Ohio State big later.
Yeah, because at this point, fashion points count.
Fashion points count. It's a style show for the committee, if you will. Of course, we don't know if Georgia has a tight game with Alabama, if any of this will come into play.
Right.
But from a betting standpoint, you get the idea.
Yeah, you've got to put your best foot forward right now in order to be not to be the girl left in the corner at the dance.
Not to be the girl left in the corner at the dance. Big 12 Championship, Oklahoma -8, a tone setter, if you will, for the rest of the day in college football. Back on Behind the Book live from the MGM Grand, atop the MGM Grand Sportsbook here in Las Vegas. Gil Alexander, Jay Rude, in a suite here, Jay. A great place to watch a whole day of football or whatever sport you might be betting.
Yeah, or, afternoon of watching some Premier League, Champions League soccer, whatever it is.
That's right, the Premier League, as we like to say. College football, big-time college football this weekend on Saturday. The marquee game of all marquee games is in the SEC, the SEC Championship. Georgia, Alabama, the number 4 and 1 teams in the country, respectively, in terms of the last college football rankings, the 5th of 6 college football rankings, the final one to be announced on Sunday after the conclusion of all college football games on Saturday. Alabama, Jay. 13.5-point favorites. It's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering that they met in the playoffs last year, Alabama had a real difficult time with Georgia early, until the miracle kid Tua stepped in and just made stuff happen, and it hasn't stopped since. So, I'm sure Jake Fromm and Kirby Smart's gonna have something cooked up. But the way Alabama's been playing and the way they've been scoring and holding their opponents down, I don't think you could do much less than 13, almost 2 scores in this. It's right around a 2-score handicap to split the betting action. Do I think Georgia's got a great opportunity to play this game close? Absolutely.
I do.
But who am I going to need? Probably Georgia. 13.5, you're going to get people laying Alabama less than 2 touchdowns. Based off what they've been watching all year. So worse positions to be in than to need Georgia plus 13.5 or 14, wherever it kind of lands.
First of all, thank you for bringing up the memory of my 30-1 to win it all Georgia ticket last year. Appreciate that. Traumatizing event the national championship was.
Yes.
You think this gets to 14, though, based on everything you just said?
I think it's easier going to 14 than coming down.
I would say that's probably the case, too. This has nothing to do with an individual bet on this game, but we were talking about it a bit when we talked about Texas, Oklahoma. If Alabama, let's put it this way, if Georgia keeps this game close, let's say they lose, but they lose by a field goal, should Georgia still be in the playoff? And conversely, if Alabama loses, should they still be in the playoff?
Alabama loses, yes. I would say absolutely. They should probably be in there because they have proven to be a team that is one of the best in the country, and that's what the playoff is about, bringing the 4 best teams in the country and let them battle in it out.
Agree.
Georgia, this would be their second loss. Their first loss was a really bad loss to LSU. I think, unfortunately, they would have to be out, and someone else that is playing stronger right now would probably have to step into their shoes. But there could be other teams that falter, and if everyone sits back and looks at it at the end of this weekend, and Georgia is still right there as, hey, they still got the horses to maybe get it done in the playoffs, put them in there and battle royale. Let's let them hammer it out with 4 teams.
It's so interesting. College football, the only of the big-time sports that's not a meritocracy. It comes down to committee.
Look at you.
Yes, meritocracy. And I'm of the opinion if Georgia loses a tight one, why should they get punished for losing to Bama? Everybody else would. Notre Dame just sit on the sideline.
So well, come on. Notre Dame does what all they can do, right? I mean, who's Notre Dame supposed to go play a playoff game with? New Mexico State?
UCF did all they could do.
Well.
Just saying. Alabama, 13.5-point favorites as we do this right here from MGM Grand. It's Behind the Book, brought to you by the Play MGM app. Back on Behind the Book, it's Gil Alexander from VSiN, the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Jay Rude, Vice President, Race and Sports, MGM Resorts International. Jay, there is a big game, interconference game in the NFL this weekend, late game, afternoon-wise on Sunday. Minnesota at New England. Right now, if the playoffs were to start, if we're to do that exercise, the Vikings would actually be the number one wild card team in the NFC. It's a big scrum of teams, make no mistake. The Patriots get by the Jets. They end up covering. They win by 2 touchdowns. But it's one of these Plinko games at the end where they could have just as easily not covered. Jets got the ball all the way down to the 4-yard line. It's 5.5. The total's 48.5. From your side of the desk, of the window, are the Patriots as public as they ever were, or is there a bit of a chink in the armor now with them?
No, I think they're getting played as pretty heavily as they have in the history. You know, they are one of those teams that always bet Brady, always bet Belichick. You know, I mean, there's some.
You've been saying it here for years.
Some laws that are etched in stone, and if you go against them, it's at your own peril usually, and it's usually the spots where people go against them is where they're getting really juicy points, and they're like, this is going to be easy because they're just going to win, they're going to lay down. But that seems to be when Brady comes out just fired up. He kind of almost like knows what the point spread is, and like we're gonna reward all these guys in the stands that have a bet on us and do the Spurrier thing and just pour on the points. But in this particular match, we're definitely going to need the Vikings.
Sure.
A domed team going to what could possibly be very cold environment this weekend. Brady and the boys, they're just very businesslike, just doing what they got to do to get where they are. Steelers handed them a gift to put them in the second spot right now. They need to stay in that second spot so they get that bye. I think that's really important to the Patriots. They won't come out and never say that, I don't think, but
no.
I think that's really important to them. They like having that bye so that they can see the teams that play the week before, understand them, get really good and healthy, hit the training room. So we're gonna need the Vikings pretty hard in this, and especially since the Vikings just don't look like the team everyone thought they were going to be.
That's a great point. They were such the darling when they picked up Kirk Cousins in the offseason. Hasn't gone quite that well, but they picked up a big win over the Packers this past Sunday night. Patriots, they've got to look in the rearview mirror at the Houston Texans for that number 2 seed. Houston charging hard with 8 straight wins. Right now, the Patriots comfortable as always in the AFC East with a 3-game lead, but it's the Texans who are threatening that number 2 seed. Last thing on this, it's 5.5. Kind of the year of teasers, Jay. Last week, 25 of 30 teaser sides hit again. It's over the break-even threshold for the season.
Yep.
Might the Vikings going through the 7 and the 10, getting them to 11.5 on a 6-pointer or 12.5 on a 7-pointer, maybe a play for the smarts better?
In a game where it could be bad weather, could be low scoring possibly. Mm-hmm. Both teams, maybe trying to establish a run game. Yeah, you get Patriots to win, you take Vikings plus 11.5. That looks pretty easy. I mean, somebody might be courageous enough to tease both sides, try and hit the little middle.
Will allow that.
They do that on Monday night sometimes when there's nothing else to tease to. They're like, all right, we'll tease both sides. They tease both sides of the total. I'm like, that's nuts, but there's a lot of them that hit too. So, especially in this era where
absolutely
you walk up to the counter and you say teaser,
it doesn't matter sometimes.
You're going to win
just
regardless
say the word.
For the most part, but it is what it is. We'll keep them up, and
you keep them up, Jay.
You
don't
keep
you do
them.
anything
You keep
with
betting
them,
and we'll see what happens at the end of the year.
Don't you change the pricing. Jay Rude, right here on Behind the Book from the MGM Grand Sportsbook, brought to you by the Play MGM app. It is Behind the Book, the sports betting series sweeping the nation. Gil Alexander from VSiN, Jay Rude, Vice President of Racing Sports MGM Resorts International. Once again, I love that title so much.
Yes.
That's why I keep saying it. Marquee matchup in the NFL this weekend, with apologies to the Thursday night game between the Saints and the Cowboys. It's the Chargers traveling to face the Steelers at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh coming off a loss at Denver. Pittsburgh doing their annual thing where they have one horrific loss
Lose
on the road.
on the road,
Yeah.
win at home.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger throws again for over 450 yards, the 6th time in his career, but Pittsburgh does a whole bunch of things that sort of shoot themselves in the foot. Fumble the ball through the end zone for a touchback. Ben misses a wide open receiver in the 3rd. James Conner fumbles at the 20-yard line. Blocked field goal, and then, of course, the final interception of the game that sealed the deal for the Broncos. But as Jay says, schizophrenic football team.
What the good thing about it is they did not cover the teaser.
They did not. One of only 5 teams.
Yeah.
That helped you out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then there's the Chargers. The Chargers, who can seemingly do no wrong. Philip Rivers, one incomplete pass last week against the Arizona Cardinals, but they win that game, a Pyrrhic victory, if you will. They lose Melvin Gordon with an MCL, likely not playing in this game. If not, it'll be Austin Eckler in his stead. Steelers by 3.5 here, total 51.5.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of those games where we just talked about, Steelers on the road, they're starting not to get back at this point.
Yeah.
Steelers at home get back very heavily. And I think, so we're going to need the Chargers. And I kind of almost think that might help us out because now you're going to go to your gunslinger more. And I think if the Steelers are susceptible, it's to that. You're not going to run against the Steelers too much, I don't think, this year that well. Especially at home in that environment. I think if this game is going to be won by the Chargers, it's definitely coming off of Rivers' arm. We're going to need it that way because I think this game is going to be bet heavily Steelers by the public at home, and I think the Sharps will either follow the Steeler play or stay away.
I think you're right. I would lean Steelers here for all the reasons we stated. Steelers, you have to think of a lot of these NFL teams. Now, we talk about home road splits in baseball a lot. We don't tend to do that with the NFL. And so many of these teams, the Cowboys, the Packers, who haven't won a single game on the road, they're very home road splitty this year. Pittsburgh might be, to some extent, one of those. This is tough for the Chargers without Gordon. Certainly not what they wanted here in this matchup with the Steelers. But 3.5, Pittsburgh still one of your more public teams, and the Chargers sort of looking for a fan base, pretty much?
Looking for a fan base, yeah. I mean, where they play is, they're sort of without a home right now. But, yeah, I mean, there is a strong Charger fan base in Vegas, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we do get
regional proximity.
Yeah, we do get strong play to the Chargers. So we might see some of that show up. Depends on who's in town that week. But generally, this game, historically, it'll be back on the Steelers side by the public.
Yeah, total once again at 51.5. It is early December now for these games. Always check the weather forecast. Pittsburgh, obviously, being one of these northeast cold weather cities, you never know what you'll get. So check that before you make your bets. It's the Chargers 3.5-point dogs, total 51.5. It's Behind the Book, brought to you by the Play MGM app. Back on Behind the Book from MGM Grand, atop the MGM Grand here in a suite. It's Gil Alexander along with Jay Rude. Behind the Book, brought to you by the Play MGM app. Monday night, Jay. Maybe not the most, let me use the word sexy matchup, but yet for division lead implications, it's the Redskins at the Eagles. Eagles 6.5-point favorites, 44 in today's day and age, a very low total. Skins 6-5, Eagles 5-6, and yet the defending Super Bowl champions have a lot to play for here.
Yeah, they do. I mean, even though they just look like there's no conceivable way that they can get back to what they were last year, maybe they need to throw Nick back in there and see what he can do at this
Nick
point.
Foles.
He's got a statue. Go out there and work up some of that magic off of that statue. But I think I've been telling you for a few weeks. I've thought the Redskins are a little bit of fool's gold. Their record,
paper tiger.
Yeah, and then I kind of was a fan of Colt McCoy. I thought he was going to come in and do well. Maybe one game got the jitters out of the way. Maybe he's going to perform much better in this game. We'll see.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
It's an ugly game. I mean, there's nothing to say about it. We're probably going to be in one of those unenvious positions where, when I look at my screen on Monday morning,
gonna need the Skins.
Well, it's gonna be lost all the way around because I think parlays are gonna be going in to each angle of this, and it doesn't matter what's gonna happen. I'm gonna end up losing. So a pig's gonna win, I'm gonna lose, and it's gonna be one of those games where you hope for the worst outcome, the least worst outcome, right? The lesser of two evils is still evil.
Made sense to me.
Yes.
Eagles could be a very big tease option for folks. Want to tease it down just for win.
Right.
So that'll be in play. And in fairness to the Redskins, for God's sakes, has a team ever been more decimated by injuries on one side of the ball? On offense, literally, they have a tight end and a center, I think,
Just give
who've
it to
played
Reed.
the whole year. Jordan Reed,
Right.
who, Jay Rude might wager on occasionally if he did such a thing.
Absolutely. His yardage total was a little low coming into that game on Thursday. Might have taken an opinion on that.
Yeah.
And if you don't adjust that on the fly, you're knowing that that's pretty much your only bullet that you've got. You're going to have to fire on him quite a bit, and he could be, from a prop angle, that could be, this game could be interesting from that standpoint because there's a bunch of different players in here now. Not as much a big sample of yardage for Coy. There's a lot of things that you could maybe dig up some nuggets that would be beneficial wagering on.
And you will have props for the Monday night game, as you always do with all the primetime games.
Right.
Available on the Play MGM app. And the beauty of the app, of course, you don't have to wait in lines. You can bet from anywhere within the confines of the jurisdiction.
Yeah, you can bet, in-running tennis from your couch anytime you like.
You could do that as well. Always a profitable endeavor. For Jay Rude, the Vice President of Race and Sports at MGM Resorts International, Gil Alexander from the Vegas Stats and Information Network. I do a little show called A Numbers Game, Jay.
I know. I haven't been on there in a while.
Oh, I will invite you. You are open to come on whenever you want. Carte blanche.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 Pacific, 10 to noon Eastern. For Jay, Gil Alexander. Thanks to everybody for watching once again. Thanks to you. Good luck with all your bets this weekend in both college and pro football.